The moment you reach for your phone to check for a notification that you already know isn't there, your brain is actually reenacting a primal survival loop designed to keep you from starving to death. You are not bored. You are not lazy. You are caught in a brilliant, highly engineered evolutionary trap that exploits the exact same neural pathways that kept your ancestors alive in the wilderness. What you are experiencing when your hand twitches toward your pocket is a psychological phenomenon called variable ratio reinforcement. It is a mechanism so powerful that it can force animals to behave against their own self-interest until they drop from physical exhaustion. Let's look at how this loop works inside your skull. Imagine you are an early human walking through an ancient forest. You are looking for bushes with sweet berries. If every single bush you encountered had the exact same amount of berries, you would only forage when you were actually hungry. There would be no thrill, no excitement, and no urge to keep pushing into the dark, dangerous woods. But nature does not work that way. Most bushes are empty. Some have a few sour berries, and then, once in a very long while, you stumble upon a bush bursting with massive, perfectly ripe wild fruit. That unexpected jackpot floods your brain with a chemical signal that says, "Remember this exact spot and keep searching, because the next big find could be just around the corner." This is the foundation of our entire survival strategy. This, in 1998, Dr. Kent Berridge at the University of Michigan completely transformed our understanding of how this chemical signal works. For decades, science assumed that dopamine was the chemical of pleasure. We thought it was the reward itself, but Dr. Berridge discovered something shocking. Dopamine is not the pleasure molecule, it is the anticipation molecule. It does not fire when you eat the sweet berry. It fires the moment you see the bush and think you might find one. It is the biological engine of want, and your phone is a pocket-sized forest filled with invisible, highly unpredictable bushes. How many times have you unlocked your screen today without actually having a reason to do so? Think about it. You check your messages, put the device down on the table, and within 40 seconds, your hand is drifting back toward it like a magnet pulling iron. This is where the engineering gets incredibly devious. Every single application on your device is built on a design architecture called the variable reward schedule. When you swipe down on your social media feed to refresh it, there is a tiny, deliberate delay. That spinning wheel isn't loading data, it is a digital slot machine spinning its reels. Will you get a high-value social validation like a new message, or will you get absolutely nothing? The sheer unpredictability of that outcome is what supercharges your brain's reward centers. In 1964, behavioral psychologist Dr. Michael Zeiler ran a classic experiment with pigeons that reveals the terrifying power of this dynamic. He placed birds in boxes with a button. When the button delivered a seed every single time it was pressed, the birds only pressed it when they were hungry. But when Dr. Zeiler changed the machine so that the button only delivered a seed at completely random intervals, something wild happened. The birds went into a frenzy. They began tapping the button constantly, ignoring food they already had, obsessed with the act of pressing. They became compulsive gamblers in feathers. Your phone has turned you into that bird. Let's map this onto your neural pathways. When you see your phone sitting on your desk, your visual cortex sends a signal to your ventral tegmental area. This brain region immediately manufactures a wave of dopamine and sends it rushing into your nucleus accumbens, the pleasure and reward center of the brain. This causes a sensation of inattention. It is a micro itch that can only be scratched by picking up the device. The physical act of checking is the scratching of that itch. But here is the most crucial part of this process. If you find a notification, you get a small burst of satisfaction. But if you find nothing, your dopamine levels drop below their baseline. This drop feels incredibly uncomfortable. It feels like mild anxiety, a subtle sense of missing out, or a quiet restlessness. How does your brain decide to fix that drop? By making you check the screen again 2 minutes later, hoping that this time the slot machine will pay off. You are not checking because you want to. You are checking to escape the emotional deficit created by the last empty check. It is a self-perpetuating loop of biological craving. You are being farmed. Think about the physical sensations of this cycle. Recall a time you left your house without your device. You felt a cold prickle of alarm. Some neuroscientists call this phantom pocket vibration syndrome. Your brain is so highly sensitized to the potential reward of a chime or a buzz that it interprets the physical movement of your clothing against your leg as a notification. Your nervous system has literally extended its boundaries to include a piece of glass and aluminum. It sounds bizarre, but from a purely neurological standpoint, your brain does not see a clear distinction between your hand and your interface. They are wired into the same cognitive loop. Every time you swipe, you are reinforcing a neural highway in your prefrontal cortex. The more you travel down this highway, the deeper the groove becomes, and the more automatic the physical gesture of reaching becomes. Eventually, the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for your self-control and long-term planning, gets completely bypassed. You are operating on pure instinct, guided by ancient pathways that were never designed to handle an infinite stream of artificial rewards. Now that you understand the underlying machinery of your mind, you can begin to hack it back. We cannot simply rely on willpower. Willpower is a limited cognitive resource managed by your prefrontal cortex, and as the day goes on, that resource depletes. If you try to fight a multi-billion-dollar industry with willpower alone, you will lose every single time. Instead, you must redesign your environment to manipulate your brain's natural pathways. Here are 3 highly specific, scientifically validated strategies to dismantle the digital slot machine. First, you must break the visual dopamine trigger by applying the friction principle. Every habit begins with a cue. For your phone, the cue is almost always visual or auditory. If you can see the screen, your ventral tegmental area is constantly running its anticipation algorithms. To counter this, create a physical boundary of at least 30 feet between yourself and your device during deep work or relaxation. When you sit down at your desk, place the phone in another room or inside a closed drawer down the hallway. This simple physical barrier introduces what psychologists call activation energy. By forcing your body to stand up, walk through a doorway, and open a drawer to check the screen, you give your prefrontal cortex time to wake up and ask, "Do I actually need this right now?" You convert an automatic reflex into a conscious decision. Second, strip away the reward value by making your screen grayscale. Our brains are deeply wired to respond to bright, saturated colors. Red notifications, blue highlights, and golden icons are modern translations of bright forest fruits. They are high-value biological indicators of a potential reward. When you turn your screen to grayscale, you instantly neutralize this visual feeding frenzy. A gray screen is incredibly boring to your visual cortex. It looks like old newsprint. By removing the sensory richness, you reduce the dopamine spike of anticipation. Suddenly, the slot machine looks broken, and your urge to spin the reels drops dramatically. Third, implement an active replacement habit using implementation intentions. You cannot simply stop a physical habit. You must replace the physical movement with another low-friction gesture. If your hands feel empty, they will seek the phone. When you feel the micro-tension of wanting to check, immediately execute a pre-planned physical routine. This could be as simple as taking 3 slow, deep breaths, rolling your shoulders, or drinking a glass of water. By pairing the internal cue of restlessness with a grounding physical action, you redirect the nervous energy. You satisfy the biological need for movement without feeding the digital feedback loop. Your phone is not a tool you use, it is an environment you inhabit. As you sit here processing how deep this wiring goes, something shifts inside you. You can look at that device resting near you with a completely new perspective. It is no longer a harmless companion or a simple calendar. It is a highly sophisticated behavioral laboratory designed to capture your attention and sell it to the highest bidder. The guilt you felt about your screen time, Let it go. You were fighting an unfair war against the most brilliant mind-mapping systems ever created, armed only with a prehistoric brain. But now the illusion is shattered. You see the gears turning behind the screen. You understand that every red bubble is an attempt to hijack your ancestral survival mechanisms. You are no longer the passive subject of this biological experiment. By taking control of your physical environment and understanding your neural chemical pathways, you regain your sovereignty. You are restoring the boundaries of your own mind. Your attention is your life. Every minute spent looking at a digital slot machine is a minute stolen from your actual human existence. This is the true power of decoding your habits. When you understand the biological programs running beneath your conscious thoughts, you become the programmer instead of the program. If you want to keep reclaiming your focus and decoding the hidden forces that drive your every decision, subscribe to Habit Decoded. Our journey into the secret mechanics of human behavior is only just beginning. Next time, we will explore a hidden sensory trigger that completely controls your financial decisions without you ever realizing it. Stay curious and keep decoding.